Yes.
You have to honor the things that you love.
Yes.
And that's part of the path. But yeah, now with meditation, the negating neti-neti approach, it becomes a path of joy, a path of love, and a path that's not rejecting the world. This is a paradox, because when you can see the argument going on in front of you as not being real, you're able to bring compassion into it. If you're operating from your inner silence, if you're operating from the witness.
Yes.
So that there's an integration that occurs. It seems like you're separate. I mean, neti-neti on the level of the mind is separation. It's just the opposite of what yoga is. It's just the opposite of what non-duality is. It's a self-defeating strategy to pursue neti-neti if you're not having the witness.
Yes.
Because you don't have anything to integrate it with.
Mm-hmm.
You're creating this denial in the mind, basically, and it's actually a very dangerous practice for people who are not ready for it. And it kind of irks me a little bit that it gets taught to beginners, because it is a very dangerous practice. It demotivates people from life. So, but the flip side of that is when you're ready for it and you have the witness and you have some discrimination going on, it's a path of great joy, because you're free. You're free from all these things that are going on, and you're able to give to help alleviate suffering wherever you find it. So that's neti-neti. And then the final stage, or final class of self-inquiry, I call it transcending self-inquiry. And this was really pioneered by Ramana Maharshi, who posed the great question, who am I, as being the only necessary spiritual practice. But it's not quite as simple as that, because it too can be quite difficult for someone who does not have the presence of the witness. You can't just walk around all day asking yourself, who am I? It's not going to work unless you're bringing up some inner silence and you have a context of self-awareness and stillness to release that inquiry into. However, transcending self-inquiry is, I think, the highest kind of self-inquiry, simply because it goes straight to the subject. It goes straight to the I sense or the I thought. And the sense, the first thought we have is I, or I am, or this I thought. And if you start there, and everything that's going on, if you immediately kind of develop the habit of saying to yourself, well, who is it that's having this experience? And it's the I thought or the I sense. And then the next question is, who am I? And then that can be released in stillness. And so you've short-circuited the entire subject-object relationship by taking this approach and gone beyond the I sense as a starting point instead of starting with the objects that you're negating. You see what I'm saying? If you're negating the objects of perception, you've got to negate the door and the window and the wall and the computer and this person that's walking in. And this is an endless series of things that have to be negated. Whereas if you're inquiring, well, who's having this experience? There's only one answer to that question. I am.
Right.
And then who am I? So you've essentially short-circuited the object-subject relationship and taken the sense of I straight into stillness.
So
that's called transcending.
Who's doing this interview?
We are. Who are we?
Who are we?
Right? This last one, I've always been looking for a structured way to incorporate this into daily practice, and this last one we did incorporate into Samyama not long ago. So this is an element of structured practice that's actually related to self-inquiry, and it's proving to be quite effective, because you can be in the witness and you can be in the stage of discrimination and even in dispassion, but you're still walking around all day either reminding yourself or not reminding yourself of something. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you sit to meditate and then you're doing samyama after that, which is a practice we talked about a few interviews ago, you can use this formula of the I thought, which is the first thought, and then inquiring, who am I or what am I, and then just release that in the samyama practice for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever your practice is. And it's totally structured, and it's very effective in terms of creating that sense of oneness and incorporating the world into your consciousness in a unity condition. So
now, when you say to look at what's true and what's not true, isn't that subjective?
It is, except when it's done in stillness, which is the ultimate subjectivity, I guess. But when you're in your stillness, you know what's true, and you know what isn't true.
Right.
It just goes with the territory.
Yes,
yes. This is one of the reasons why I say that samyama, where we're releasing intentions and inquiries in stillness, that samyama is a morally self-regulating practice, because anything that having stillness as a prerequisite, anything that you release in stillness, it's going to be, how should we say, it will be known, that what is true in it will be known, and what is not true in it will be dissolved. And the irony in this is that you can do samyama or witness-based prayer on very negative things like war and hunger, terrorism, whatever. And when those things are taken in stillness, they become transformed. And the energy that comes back out actually goes to purify those negative tendencies that are going on, whether it's in our life or in the world. So subjective, yes, but the ultimate subjectivity is truth and goodness and love and compassion. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
If the mind is judging from the point of view of the ego, and the ego is the subject, I think that's what we mean when we say subjective. One person's truth will be another person's non-truth.
Yes.
Whereas when you're doing it in stillness, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good answer for that. Now, we know that there are so many different paths, there's so many different teachers, especially today the internet is bringing so much information to us. But there are still so few benefiting from many of the spiritual practices. What is it that's missing?
Well, from the point of view of looking at self-inquiry, I think what it has to do with ripeness, as in the ripeness of a fruit. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is if people aren't doing the necessary spade work, meditating, doing breathing techniques, doing postures, and the various other things to prepare the body-mind for realization, then there's a certain ripeness that's lacking. It's a lot like gardening, I mean, a human nervous system can be cultivated to enlightenment. There's no doubt about that. And there are some people who were born quite ripe and ready to fall off the tree, and those are the people who are out there teaching, maybe without knowing how they got ripe in the first place, because they were born with it. But it is really a subject of ripeness. It's a subject of it's a matter of cultivation, and I think we're now, as a society, as a humanity, we're now in a process of really putting together the process of human cultivation.
Yeah, and I think also maybe some of it's to do with the fact that some teachers focus on certain areas and not really an overall view of the path.